I'll never forget one day when I was in 5th grade at Johnson Elementary. We had been studying through American history in Miss Sledge's class, the course of the events that transpired across the American Revolution. We had heard about the great founding father, the hero, the first president of the United States, George Washington. How he crossed the Delaware and how he stood up at Valley Forge and how they ambushed the British on Christmas. Wonderful classic American stories. And while I loved reading history and studying history and talking about war and violence, and especially the founding of this country, there was one thing that I hated around the subject: tests. And a buddy of mine named Greg hated it just as much. Me and Greg were not only roommates and classmates in school, but we were also next door neighbors. The mischief and everything that ran along with that was just to go on for ages. Well, me and him on the bus ride home one day, we rode down the Mooresville Road and we got lit off. We decided to meet together and we said, man, I'm not taking this test tomorrow. He said, I'm not going to take this test either. I said, well, what do we need to do? He said, why don't we play hooky from school? I said, sounds like a good idea to me. I said, but how are we going to do it? He said, man, just, take that thermometer and stick it up next to the light bulb in the morning when you tell your mama you're sick. And then let it get good and hot and then stick it in your mouth. I said, okay. I said, tell you what. He said, we'll meet back behind the barn and we'll meet at 7:50, 10 to 8 behind the barn. Okay. So next morning, I go to bed that night and say, Mama, I don't feel real good. She said, well, you just go to bed and you lay down, you go get a night's sleep, you'll feel fine in the morning. Well, I wake up, Mama, I don't feel good. I'm burning up. She said, well, all right, let me go get the thermometer and I'll take your temperature. So she goes in there and she gets the thermometer and she brings it in there to me and she said, open it up and stick it. And she stuck it up underneath my tongue. And I said, she walked out and she went to my sister's bedroom right next door. She was helping her get ready, in the morning. Every morning, it was a big hurry. So we go in there and I take that thermometer out of my mouth. I stick it up there and it's that light bulb. And I'm letting it get hot. I'm saying, yeah. And I hear my mother coming. And I hear her walking out of my sister's room. And I stick that thing in my mouth. I had to let that metal get up against that light bulb and it got forever more hot. And I had a blister on my tongue. Mother said, what's the matter, Don? What's the matter? I said, Mama, just all of a sudden it hit me. I felt like I'm burning up. She said, your temperature says it's 107.9. The thing didn't go but to 180, So she said, we got to check your temperature again. So I stuck it up under my mouth and she left. I stuck it up by the light bulb, but I learned my lesson, I may be hard-headed, but I'm a quick learner. I let that thing get up there about 101. I stuck it underneath my mouth. I said, Mama, it's ready. And here it comes. 101.4. She said, baby, you are burning up. I'm going to call in to work and I'm going to stay home with you. Going to stay home with me. This is liable to ruin everything. We've got a plan. We've got a great adventure planned for today. She said, honey, I need to stay home. I said, Mom, I'll be fine. I've got the house phone. You just got a cell phone. I can call you if something goes wrong and you can come home. She said, okay, you can do it. You can stay home by yourself. But I'm going to call you at 9. I'm going to call you at lunch. And then I'll call you at break time. Okay. So, plans work together. Out the door they went. Mom and sister, they're gone. They're going to school. I look out my window, faced over toward Greg's house. His mom's backing out the driveway. I go back behind the barn. There stood Greg. Thought you'd never make it, man. Me too. So we go out and we're pretending we are George Washington. And we crossed the Delaware in a canoe my dad had out back behind the barn. And we shot all kind of Indians and we shot all kind of dirty redcoats. And it came about dinner time. He said, well, man, my mom's supposed to call at dinner. I said, mine is too. I said, well, we best go inside and get ready for that phone call. So we go in there and get ready for that phone call. Sure enough, Mom calls. She said, I'll just make sure you're okay. Hey, I'm fine, Mom. Don't worry about it. I'm feeling better. I'm going to go take a nap, though. So I'll call you in a little bit. Okay. But you call me in a little bit. So me and Greg made it back up. I said, man, I got to go to the bathroom. He said, well, have you got to do the number 1 or number 2? I said, the number 1. He said, okay, well, you can go in the house. He said, if you got to do the number 2, the septic tank is trashed and the toilet's not flushing solid, so you have to use the porta-john out back. I said, okay. So here we go. I go in, I take a leak, come back out, and he gets into their old Blazer. And we tear out across what we call the golf course back behind the barn in the big field. We were turning donuts and having a big old time. I said, Greg, why don't you let me drive? Why don't you let me drive, Greg? I'll drive, and then you can ride. And what I mean by ride is we did some redneck stuff. We had an old tire attached to a rope tied to the bumper hitch on that Blazer. And we would pull each other on that tire out through that field going 25 and 30 miles an hour. Well, he said, that sounds good to me. I've been driving you for a while. My turn to ride. So I tear out through that field and I'm doing it. You know, we weren't stupid. I mean, we wouldn't go over 30. You know, we were playing it smart. And I go out there and I whip him around. I mean, he whips around all the way up there so far that, you know, the tire's coming even with the driver's seat. And I take off and I ram that thing going the other way. And we get up there close to Greg's house and I hear him screaming, don't hit the house, don't hit the house. And I whipped that thing around right there beside it. And that tire slingshot it around and it hit that porta potty they had out right back. And it slammed into him, it flipped it over. And I hollered, Greg, you all right? He said, man, I'm good, hammered down. So he jumped back down on that tire and took off that porta-john and just laid over sideways. We wheel out down there and come back. And when we come back, we see a sight we were not prepared for. Greg's dad standing in that patio off the edge of the driveway, covered in blue ink. He's covered head to toe. It looked like a Smurf out there. You know, Big Daddy Smurf standing out there on the patio. So we pulled up and we said, Mr. Mack, what's going on? Let me ask you boys a question. I said, well, go ahead. We didn't know you was home, but it's good to see you. Playing hooky from school, I understand. Acting like a fool out here, I understand. But let me ask y'all a question. Did y'all run into that porta potty over there and knock it over? Stood there. I said, Mr. Mack, we've been studying about George Washington in school. And we learned about his youth and his early childhood and how one day he chopped down a cherry tree. And his dad approached him and asked him, he said, son, did you chop down that cherry tree? George Washington said, yes, Father, I did. You know, so we learned to tell the truth. So, Mr. Mack, I'm going to tell you the truth. It was me that was driving the Blazer. And I slingshotted Greg into that porta potty. Get your hands on the side of the shop. I am about to whip y'all like there's no tomorrow. I said, but Mr. Mack, we told the truth. We did like George Washington and we told the truth. And his daddy didn't whoop him. He said George Washington's daddy wasn't in that cherry tree when he chopped it down, was he? I was in that porta potty when y'all knocked it over. So lesson learned, folks. If you're going to play hooky from school, make sure ain't nobody home.